Hello everybody, welcome to the God Talk, guys.
Hi.
This is Michael Mack.
Wow.
My name is Michael Koran.
Wow. True love. We switch identities.
We switch chairs.
Yes.
My name is Michael Mack. This is my good friend Michael Koran, and we're here to talk about God, talk about faith, and today talk about mothers. Because this is Mother's Day 2014, and so we have a chance to celebrate mothers, give thanks for mothers, and I haven't actually. One thing that happened at Mass this morning is that the father over at Sacred Heart Church in East Cambridge invited all the mothers to come up at the end of the Mass to receive a blessing, but he also invited anyone who did any kind of mothering at any time in their lives. So it would have been an invitation to any guy who at any time in their life has done nurturing and mothering. There was no guy in the congregation, including myself, who had guts enough to stand up and do it. But it was an opportunity.
And it could have been if you stood up, you were the first, and then all of a sudden other men would have the courage. And you could have started.
My suspicion is,
you would have been up
if
there
I had
alone.
stood up, I would have been the only guy. And the guys would have looked up and said, "What's he doing up there?"
It's too bad we can't rerun that. Maybe next year I'm going to come.
See, that's the thing about the internet. That's the thing about computers, is that we've gotten so used to just doing a Control-Alt-Delete, or
back. Just move it back and redo it. Yes.
Yeah. You don't like what you just wrote?
But we can
just erase it, write it the way it should be.
Next Mother's Day, you could go to this church. They might go do the same thing.
That's true.
Invite me. It would just be so much fun.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Whoa. We don't have to. Yes.
Yes, there's a hand right there.
See, just like that's what he was afraid of at the church. You just go up there and someone says, "There's a man up there."
So what I thought I would do for today,
yes,
for Mother's Day, is share a poem or two of mine about my mom. So, what do you think? Maybe we could do some reflections or recollections on our mothers for this.
And what do we feel about our mothers now, really? If we like, both of our mothers are...
They've passed away.
Yes.
Yeah.
That would be quite a question. You know, what we really feel and think.
Well, you know, one of the things that was sad to me, I mean, my mother passed away in 2002, so she got to see the World Trade Center go down. I mean, not in person. She was in Baltimore at the time, but she lived long enough to see this new era that we're now living in. And she died in May of 2002. So it's been 12 years. It'll be 12 years this May 2014, but I think it's May 21st. I'll have to double check that. May 22nd. And so it was 12 years ago, and when she died, I mean, we all knew that it was coming. At least for several weeks, it was looking very likely. And then when she died, I had no idea what it would feel like. I had no idea of the kind of crushing weight that I felt for a couple of days with her death. She was the first of my parents to go. My dad's still living. And it was just like this giant leaden weight that I felt in my body, in my heart. And so I didn't expect that. Within a couple of days, that lifted, but for a long time, for at least a year, probably a couple of years, whenever I thought about my mom, I thought about my mom with a sense of loss, a sense of longing, a sense of sorrow. And then, as time went by, I felt less of that. And you might say that that was healing, but I really kind of missed. I missed the sense of loss and the sense of sorrow. It was almost as though there was this dust that was just filtering over, that's settling over the sadness, over the pain, the emotional pain that I had felt when she first died. And it just didn't seem right. Every now and then, since then, sometimes in dreams, we'll meet, or I'll remember something or think of something, and just for a brief flare, a brief moment, I will again have that sense of intimacy and immediacy and closeness with her. But not like it was. What about yourself? When did your mother pass away?
August 13th, 2000.
Okay, so a couple of years before my mom died.
Yeah.
And do you have anything that you would like to share about those circumstances?
Well, I'm still relating to her, still working things out.
Yeah.
Discovering, I had what people call spiritual bypass of forgiveness. I forgave my mom, and she was deeply appreciative because she wasn't a nice...
So you forgave her as in forgave her? Is that what you mean by spiritual bypass? That it wasn't a full-bodied...
It wasn't full, but it was good enough for her to live happily ever after with me.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize there were other feelings besides forgiving.
Mm-hmm.
And they've come often after she's died.
Yeah.
So I have to check in, I don't know if we need to do it now, of what kind of love I feel for her.
So there is love there.
I would have to look in carefully. I was very loving to her. She was extremely appreciative. She became the most appreciative mother I've ever known. Because she was so bad. I mean, she used to hit me all the time. Just why
When you were a child?
Yes. And hit me for crying.
Mm-hmm.
So it was quite, it made I'm still working on that now. My skin and bones get cold.
Mm.
And I have to work these things out with the poor women I've been with. And I am. I was with my dear friend Meadow today, and I could feel when we were getting closer and hugging, that cold feeling come. And now I'm aware of it. And I said, as my therapist reminded me, you could tell that feeling you don't need it anymore.
Hmm.
You can defend yourself in connection with people.
Did you do that?
Yes, and it was so wonderful to not have to coldly protect myself. And it's quite something. It comes, at least for me, maybe other people. I could feel it coming out of my body. I could feel like someone turned on the thermostat. Okay, we're warm and connecting, and then the thermostat would say, "Hey, you better protect yourself."
Mm.
And I love it not having to do that. So, and I'm doing this in the home that my mother helped me buy. She really helped.
Oh, the home that you're living in
Yes,
now.
helped me buy. None of this would be possible. She was very generous to me. So, those are some of the feelings.
Mixed bag, it sounds like. You know, that our relationship with our mothers, with our parents, is mixed bag.
And I'd also say when I look, and I'm now can be so appreciative that she became so appreciative. Because she thought, how could anyone treat me kindly after the way I treated my children?
Well, there's something that happens over decades. And one thing that happens is that you're not the child you were. You're carrying, in a way, you're carrying that child around with you, but your life has brought you so many experiences, and you're so much bigger as a being than you were as a child, you're not that child anymore. And she is not the woman that she was. You said that she used to strike you when you were a child, but you became a teenager or a young man, and so that all stopped.
Stopped when my bones got too hard and it hurt her hand.
Yeah. Well, thank goodness for bones.
Yeah. Adolescent bone. Yes.
But I guess in part that's what forgiveness is, or can be, is a recognition that I'm not who I was, they're not who they were, everything's different now.
Yeah, but I had so much hatred and anger. I needed to. It was too I had to first create some kind of loving persona.
Yeah.
And then it was safer because I had learned at least to behave in a loving way. Then it was safer to feel how murderous I was toward myself as well as others.
Yeah, me too. My mom was diagnosed with schizophrenia when I was 5, and it could be a very chaotic household. And when she was actively psychotic, she could be, I think, unintentionally abusive. She was out of her mind, as they say. So those were really difficult years, those early years, and my dad calls them the toughest years of his entire life, the hardest years of his life. Everything after that, he's buried 4 wives. He's with his 5th wife right now. But he said after that, after those early years, the rest was easy.
Wow.
So I didn't have the responsibilities that he had, trying to hold the household together, keep our family together, make sure us kids were safe. So as a child, one of 4 kids, I was just kind of along for the ride, which didn't make it easy, but I just didn't have the kind of responsibility that my dad had, in addition to trying to navigate life with my mom when she was actively psychotic. But over the years, our relationship changed, and she came into recovery. Recovery means a lot of different things for a lot of different people. For my mom, it meant that she really needed to be in a structured environment. And in the last 16 years of her life, she lived in a couple of really outstanding group homes that provided that structure. And part of that structure was medication that she never especially liked being on the medication, but the thing was, you could tell immediately when she was not taking her meds. And it was not healthy for anybody. But the thing is, in those last 16 years especially, she and I came into a very different kind of relationship. And I've always felt a very close connection with my mom, even when she was not well. I felt like I could relate to her in a heartful way, that I simply couldn't relate to with anybody else.
When you were young, even?
Yeah, even when I was young.
I had none of, really, I think none of it.
Because when she was well, she was very sweet, she was kind, she was very loving.
Yeah,
and when she was not well, when she was psychotic, she was not.
Oh my. See, I did not have that.
Yeah.
And then it switched.
So,
so how do you feel, and you can ignore this question, this is your show, but how do you feel about your mother now, this moment?
I miss the sense of closeness and connection, but I guess it's what life is all about. You live long enough, you start losing people. People die, people go away. How do I feel about her now? Well, maybe a good answer to that question would my reading this poem. This poem I wrote in the last couple of years of her life. She died ultimately of cancer And before she died, some months before she died, she had a surgery that they were hoping was going to fix the problem. Actually, now that I think of it, I think it was a year before she died. And it actually did seem to fix. She had cancer surgery, took out her uterus. And the docs thought at the time that it would solve the problem, and it seemed to. Until very suddenly, within a matter of weeks, it came roaring back, and that's when we lost her. So the poem is set in that year before she died, and she had just had that cancer. And as you can imagine, she had a scar right above her uterus, right above her vagina. And so that's the setting for this poem, which is called Privilege. Home from the hospital, Mama is groggy, dazed, napping much of the day, but sipping chicken broth and scuffing about the house. I sit on the edge of her cot, a squeaky raft. The room smells sweetly of urine. A neighbor's poodle shivers in my lap. Good to see you up, I say. She fusses in a chest of drawers, shuffles to the closet, then inches away, faces me. Want to see my scar, she says. Everybody else has. Before I can speak, she hikes up her skirt, hooks a thumb in the band of her cotton underpants, and tugs them down. The scar, like any still raw with stitches, bright violet, a bristling sisal snake below her navel. What I've never seen, not as child or adult, is the small fold below. Shrunken, with a tuft like the head of a bird. Gray, maybe blonde. My life's beginning close enough to touch. Her pale thighs raise it like a vase. One glimpse. She drops her skirt and shuffles away, carelessly, as if nothing has changed, as if the room is not holding its breath. So it was a very intimate moment when my mom hiked up her skirt, tugged her pants down to show me the scar. And of course, what I saw was that birth canal from which I came. And I had never seen it before, never seen it since. And it was a great moment of intimacy. And I confess a little bit of shock, just because, well, I wasn't expecting it. And my mom was very unexpected at times. And maybe partly because of her illness, partly because it's just her nature. She was very direct. But it was just a moment where she shared with me this very intimate thing. And I felt drawn to write this poem about it, which I never shared with her. So I guess that's, to answer your question, that's how I, maybe that helps to answer how I feel about my mom now. I miss her. I miss, for all of her craziness, there was a lot of beauty and a lot of insight, kind of a forthrightness, a remarkably candid insight about things. And some things I've never forgotten. Once she said, and I forget what the context was for this, it might have been just apropos of nothing, she said that when we die, we all go to heaven. That hell is right here. This is it. This is as bad as it gets. And I've never forgotten that, and I kind of suspect that that's so. That heaven awaits us all, sooner or later. Sometimes I wonder if, because of her illness, or with her illness, if she had insights into the nature of things, that normal folks don't have. I know back in earlier times, people who would now be diagnosed with one mental illness or another were seen as seers or prophets or shaman, people who had special insights into the hidden worlds. And I can't help but wonder. So does that answer your question?
A beginning answer, only a beginning.
Yep.
I have
yeah.
responses if you want to hear them.
Sure.
But you can. I think I might put it in context with a very brief story.
Sure, please.
When my mother died in August of 2000, my dance teacher came to visit. We had a weekly lesson, and I wanted.
Came to visit you in your home?
Yes.
Your mother had already passed?
Yes.
Okay.
And I wanted to break something.
Mm-hmm.
And he got me to pick up pillows and bang them on chairs. And I said, this is not working. One of the few times I have been with him that I didn't feel better after his hour visit. And I didn't. And he leaves. And somehow I know to do this. I take a glass jar, transparent glass, and put it in a pot and get a hammer and break the glass in the pot.
Okay. So you took you had a large pot and you put a glass in the pot?
Yeah,
and
and
you
broke
had
it. And bang. And I
Did glass fly everywhere?
No, only in the pot.
Don't try this at home.
Only in the pot.
Okay.
Then I feel better.
Yeah.
And when I hear your poem, reminding me of my mother in certain ways, I am very, very angry and upset at her. And I won't, but I want to, see, I was stuck with my mother because when she did stuff like this, what could I do? I can't say, like you were saying earlier, let's rewind. Mom, that's not appropriate. Because she's done it already. And then casually going her way. And I would want now, finally, I would be not frozen enough in my body to at least feel what I would like to do to her. And maybe, break something and to somehow, I don't know what, because it was hard when I was a kid, I didn't have the power. As an adult, I had the power. I stopped talking to her for 4 years. And I tell her.
Did you tell her why?
I say, I'm not going to talk to you for 4 years. It's too difficult. Something like, I might not have even told her why. She understood. I said, I'm not able to relate to you for 4 years. And I did it for 4 years. And at the end of and that's what did the trick. Because then when she started being with me again and started her stuff like this, it could be anything. She started yelling at me and I said, Mom, could you please talk to me kindly? And she'd say such things as, you're Hitler, you're trying to control how I talk. And I learned to talk to her back that way. And she left, I said, why don't, Mom, I can talk to you too that way, and I did. And she leaves the room because I'm screaming back at her with the same tone. And she comes back the following morning and says, I think we should talk to each other more kindly. And that changed our relationship forever, because she loved bringing me down into her depths. She was lonely down there. And once she discovered that, oh my, if I start screaming and yelling and and seducing my son, I don't mind if he's miserable with me and we're fighting. That makes me feel good. But if he won't relate to me at all for another 4 years, that's too scary for me. And so I could be with her and I could see, sitting next to her in the car, her, I think almost literally moving her lips and not saying anything. And then she became, because the rest of the family got along better with her too, when she learned to hold her lips. And she became so grateful that someone had finally, this was my father's job really, but someone had finally helped her not drag everybody into the hell she was living in. And she became this very devoted mother. And thank you, Evelyn. I still have feelings. I still have some of these, many.
Congratulations.
Many of these. But I also can say, talking to you on the show, that in the anger and breaking and hatred, there's also, and maybe you feel it, an unbelievable love now. It's powerful, like the Pentecost. It feels like fire and light. Thank you for birthing me and feeding me and helping me have a body and not totally destroying me and giving me the means to buy a condo and pay for my dance teacher so I could begin to learn how to have a body. And
we have about 40 seconds left on this Mother's Day edition of the God Talk Guys. So to all mothers out there, may you be blessed. And to all children of mothers out there, may you be blessed.
And to all people who do mothering.
All people who do mother.
Oh.
Maybe next year I'll have the guts to do that. I mothered a poem at least.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Michael. Wow.
See you next time.